Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com, and we're back with this week's new comic book reviews. And guess what? Surprise, surprise! Yes, another huge freaking stack of comics. It never seems to end. So, there's just a lot to get to this week. So let's just get going. Let's cut to the chase. First up, we have Superman 78 #1, written by Robert Venditti, with artwork by Wilfredo Torres. I get that. First of all, I must state it's really we're really proud of DC because in the inside cover there's a beautiful tribute to Richard Donner, who directed Superman, the original Superman, and Superman 2 before he was fired, and it's really great because for me, Superman 1978 is, to me, the best superhero ever made still today. Partially because the one thing that Richard Donner, his mantra in making that film was verisimilitude, be true to the story, and he was. It very much is Superman. It distilled all that mythology, and for me, being that it's my favorite, my top superhero film, Venditti and Torres really had a very high bar to get to, and I really have to say they captured the spirit of that film, and yet this is all new, and it's absolutely amazing, and I really loved it. First of all, the story, Venditti's story, is really good. It takes place after the first film, so none of the events in Superman 2 where Lois learns Clark is Superman, all that stuff, so that is not there. What's interesting is it has Brainiac in it, and it's interesting because I know there was some talk of Brainiac showing up in whether it was the original Superman film or 2 or 3 or something. He was talked about, but then of course they stuck with Lex Luthor, which makes sense. But it's interesting because Venditti, Brainiac's a really great Superman villain, and I think it's interesting because you have this kind of technological villain, and yet in 78 technology is not say what it is today. So that, I think that brings an interesting take, and it's just a really interesting story, and I love how Venditti uses Brainiac and how he's setting up this story for the series. And it's just a really good story, and I think that the really big key to Venditti is he really sat down and did his homework, because it really feels like the movie, like Tom Mankiewicz's script for the movie, like the way that they talk, the way that they act, and all that kind of stuff. And you really can't imagine, as you're reading it, you hear Christopher Reeve, you hear Margot Kidder, you hear Jackie Cooper, and these voices that they're so fondly and embedded in our memory that he captures all of that. So then it falls to Torres to visually bring this to life, and that's a big bar to get over, because he has to make it look like those actors, and he really does a great job. But what I loved about it is it still has his style. He's done a lot of work. He did some Black Hammer work, which was really wonderful. And this was a tough assignment, and he really, for me, he passed the test, because it really, especially Christopher Reeve, it really looks like Christopher Reeve, but as done by Torres. So, that's a really big key. But, once again, I can't not recommend this enough, especially, sure, there's the whole nostalgia thing and everything, but taking that aside, it's actually a really good Superman story, and it's also great for readers, or readers that aren't, they don't want to deal with the continuity of like the ongoing Superman titles. You can just read this by itself, and I think at this point everybody's seen the original Superman movie, so I highly recommend it. I really, it's a must buy this week. Next up, we have Darkhawk #1, written by Kyle Higgins, with artwork by Juana Ramirez. Now, I remember the 90s, I think it was the 90s, the Darkhawk series, and to be quite honest, it was very 90s. It really was not very good. And so I was kind of surprised because it was never a big seller. It was never, I wouldn't, people remember it. I don't know that a lot of people remember it that fondly, but I could be wrong, but I just remember it being not very good. Now, so this is, a kind of reimagined version. It's not like the same characters and stuff like that. It's all new. The thing is that I will say, the story's decent. I think it's pretty basic. The kid's a basketball star. Then he discovers he has MS and he can't. He's not going to be able to go to college on his scholarship fund. Oh, boohoo. And then, oh, well, there's a big explosion or something. And oh, he discovers the Darkhawk costume. Okay. Yeah. It's, once again, it's not bad, but this story is so basic. It's there. There's really nothing there that is shocking, new, or even inventive. I mean, it's a very by the numbers. It's like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And then guess what? This happens. And then there's the quote unquote surprise at the end, which I will not say because there are some people who do want to read this. But it's just like, oh, I'm so shocked. That's to me, that's what I kind of have a problem with a lot of Marvel books. In the fact that it's almost like they're written for kids. I mean, it's very basic. It's not bad, but it doesn't bring anything new to the table. And at this point, when you're paying like $4 for a comic, I expect a lot more than that. I mean, once again, it's fine for what it is, but it's very basic. It's very by the numbers, and it just Ramirez's art is nice. He does a good job on the artwork. I mean, it's a nice looking book and everything, and I think it's decent. But when it really comes down to, is it worth your time and money? To me, it's not. It's just too basic. Next up, we have King Spawn #1. With the King Spawn story written by Sean Lewis, and then the subsequent stories written by Tom McFarlane. The main artwork is by Javi Fernandez, and then the subsequent stories, the artwork's by Steven Segovia, Marcio Takara, Philip Tan, and Brett Booth. Now, this is like the previous Spawn book. So what it apparently is going to do is every character is going to have the main story in the first part of the book, and then there's continuing backups of the previous short stories that were in the previous like Spawn special that came out about a month ago. So, so it kind of continues that, except for, in this case, King Spawn is the main story, and then the other ones like the Gunslinger and stuff like that are the backup stories. Once again, I wasn't particularly overwhelmed by the Spawn special that came out that kind of reintroduced all these characters. And, it's still Spawn. It's okay. If you love Spawn, you're going to love this. But I still say that, if you're not a huge Spawn fan, I don't know that these stories are going to change your mind. They're fine for what they are. They have really nice artwork, but they're pretty basic stuff. I mean, it's just like, oh, there's a bad thing going on and Spawn has to, some dark bad guy is in charge of it. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's never happened before. So, it's just pretty basic stuff here. It's fine for what it is, but I would say unless you're some huge Spawn fan, I don't think these books are really going to change your mind. They're nice for what they are, but it was a decent read. Nothing, didn't really set the world on fire for me. Next up, we have Cassidy's Secret #1, written by Charles Holland, with artwork by Antonio Fuso. This was kind of an interesting story. So the basic story is, think of like Superman, a Superman type character that, saves, stuff. And, but there's this lawyer who, like, not so much that she helps him, but she takes care of problems. Like, she's a super lawyer. It would be like Amanda Waller or Nick Fury coming in and just taking care of everything in that respect. So what the first issue does, it sets up, and the superhero, it's kind of like, think of her as a bit of a Lois Lane lawyer. That's kind of how to explain it. And then, so they obviously kind of have a relationship, and then at the end of the issue, you know, he ends up getting killed. And, he's supposed to be invulnerable and everything. So that kind of like, so we find out that the story really isn't about, the Superman type character. It's about her. And we're going like, what the heck? It's kind of an interesting story. I mean, I wasn't necessarily blown away by the story, but I thought, it was definitely kind of different enough. And there was enough twist. I don't think it's necessarily super original, but I think it's got promise in there. So, so Holland, once again, kind of pulls it all together pretty decently. It's well paced for a first issue. Fuso's artwork is actually pretty good here. It does the job. It gets the job done. And, there's a lot of times where it's just kind of characters standing around talking. Once again, he does that quite well. So, it's interesting. If you're looking for something a little different, it's not a huge recommendation, but I think it's worth checking out if you want to see, look for something a little different. Next up, we have Superman versus Lobo #1, written by Tim Seeley and Sarah Beatty, with artwork by Mirka Andolfo. Now, let me get this out of the way. This is definitely much more of a humor story. I mean, it is pure Lobo. There's no gray area. He frags and, he swears and stuff all the time. Sadly, his dog's not there, and I didn't see any dolphins. So, but it's kind of like a comedy. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting. I really have to give Seeley and Beatty that it's really pretty wild story. It's pretty basic. They kind of set up, how they end up meeting and all that kind of stuff. But along the way, there's a lot of really great humor infused into the script. So, it's really a fun book. And, that's kind of what makes this really different is it's kind of like, I can't believe DC kind of let them do it because it's not, normally these kind of team ups are pretty, basic, and of course, but they're kind of playing it for fun, which is actually, I think, a real win for this book. I really liked it because it wasn't what I was expecting, and that in this case is a very good thing. But they don't stray, Superman's still Superman, Lobo's still Lobo, so they don't change that. It's the story around them that is not what you kind of expect. And then Andolfo really brings it. She really does some great work. I love when she does her own books, but she really brings a good style to this. And I think you kind of need somebody that can kind of do comedy, and you don't want to play the artwork too straight. And she does, but she doesn't. There's a lot of subtlety that she really brings to the artwork in this book, and really just brings that charm out of that script into the artwork. And I was really surprised. And then of course, you have Simon Bisley doing one of the alternate covers, which is like, well, you have to get Bisley. He's when it comes to Lobo, he's the main man drawing him. So getting that cover was really nice. So I would say check it out. I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely something that I didn't expect. Next up, we have Marvel Voices Identity #1. Now there's multiple stories in here. So we have the first story is by Jean Luen Yang. And artwork by Marcus Toe. Then there's a story by Greg Pak and Chris Lee. Then there is Christina Strain and Jason Liu doing the artwork. Then we have Saber Pizzada writing, and with Marcel Ahmed on the artwork. And then we have Alyssa Wong writing, and Walso Portaccio. I know I just messed it up. I apologize. Then we have a story by Jeremy Holt with artwork by Alti Fermancia. Then we have a story that's written and drawn by Ken Numara. And then the final story is written by Maureen Gu and with artwork by Lin Yoshi. So there's multiple stories in here. And anthology books, I mean, the one nice thing is the price is pretty decent. This is only like, I think a $5.99 book, so it's not one of those $10 ones. The first story is the Shang-Chi, which kind of has, it's kind of a nod to the current Shang-Chi movie style, and then the the original Doug Munch uh, vision. That was a pretty decent story. That was actually good. And then there's a Jubilee story, which was actually pretty good and sweet. The one of the interesting ones was the Jimmy Woo. Which a lot of people, we got to kind of know him a little bit more in the WandaVision show. Then there was a Ms. Marvel story. Then we have a Bishop story, and then we have let's see who else we have. Oh, the one that was really fun was the Silver Samurai, which was actually a lot of fun. It was really, that one was for me the best one. That was the one by Ken Numara. That was just really fun. It was really a charming story, and then the final story had Silk in it. So what this is it's they're all, the stories are done by Asian or Pan Pacific creators, or Asian Americans. And, I do applaud, it's great that they are pointing out these characters that are within the Marvel Universe that are, of that descent. And, but once again, I think none of the stories, the only one, like I said, the sushi one with Silver Samurai was really the one that was like, it was charming and it was cute. It's a funny little story. The other ones were fine. They were pretty basic stories. I think the only one that really stood out was the Shang-Chi story, which was interesting. But the rest of them were they were nice and okay. I think it's just one of those things. Once again, I applaud. I think having different voices and pointing out characters that are diverse within comic companies, and like Marvel. And of course, DC's done this type of book too. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing overall for the industry. I think the more voices are better. I just think, it's okay. I wouldn't, I would set my expectations low. If this type of concept interests you, I think you should check it out. But, otherwise, if you're kind of on a tight budget, I'd say, you could easily, you're not missing a whole lot here. I think it's good, but not great. Next up, we have Echolands, number 1, written by John H. Williams III and W. Hayden Blackman, with artwork by John H. Williams III. Now, he has been working on this book a long time. It was actually going to come out after he had left Batwoman, which was quite a long time ago. Because they wouldn't let him do the storyline of Batwoman getting married. And then that went to hell in a handbasket. So, and then he did the Las Vegas tribute book for the victims of the Las Vegas shooting. He got involved in that. So this project just kept getting put on the back burner. But what's interesting is, obviously, his artwork is absolutely fantastic. There's no gray area. He's a brilliant artist. He also ended up, one of the other things, he did Sandman Overture, so he just kind of got waylaid. But I like how he does the artwork in kind of a panoramic style. It's actually comic book size, but instead of instead of up, it's sideways. So, and the artwork is absolutely fantastic. Now, here's the thing: the story, once again, you're kind of like it's a setup story. So you get to you introduce a character. For me, it kind of, in a way, she kind of, not that she's a Red Riding Hood, but it kind of reminded me. I thought, oh, she could be like a Red Riding Hood type character because she wears a red cloak and everything. It's interesting. So obviously, she's kind of a thief, but there's kind of some other things going on. So we're not quite sure, kind of where it's going to go. But I will say I enjoyed it. It's a setup issue. So, in that respect, if you go in, make sure that's kind of what it is. So, but it is a good setup. I think the story is pretty decent. I enjoyed it. Of course, what can you say? What else can I say about his artwork? His artwork is absolutely stunning. It's just a freaking gorgeous looking book. I mean, you can just sit there and stare at it, which you should, because there's so much there to look at. And it's really, I think it's worth checking out. It's once again, you have to understand it's a setup issue. So there's kind of a lot of, not too much meat story wise on the bone because he's setting things up, But I think it's worth checking out. I think it's interesting. Next up, we have Icon and Rocket #2, written by Reginald Hoodlin, with artwork by Doug Braithwaite. Now, I really like the first issue. First issue was a real setup. This one is really interesting because, they're the Rocket and Icon are, they're clean. Mostly, Rocket. She's cleaning up, the neighborhood because it's, drug infested criminals and stuff. So she's cleaning up. And what's interesting is the police really want to catch them, but but the community has banded around them to like hide them, and so it's kind of interesting. And then there's a setup, and then there's a backstory of, because obviously Icon has been on Earth for a long time. That's set up in the first issue. So we go back to the Civil War era of America, where there's this guy who apparently killed him. So that's interesting because apparently you can't kill him. So that really brings up an interesting thing of who this guy is and how he's going to fit in. So I really enjoyed the second issue. I mean, the first issue was really very set up, and I think Hoodlin really hit the ground running on this second issue and really got the ball going on where this story is going to go. And I really liked it. And Braithwaite's artwork, I really enjoy. I really enjoy his artwork, and he's doing a really bang up job. It's a good looking book. And I like the milestone characters, so I'm glad that these are all, coming out and working out, that they're all good so far. So, knock on some sort of wood that they keep going that way. Next up, we have Spider-Man Life Story Annual #1, written by Chip Zdarsky with pencil artwork by Mark Bagley and inked by Andrew Hennessy. Now, this story centers on J. Jonah Jameson and how he created Scorpion to kill Spider-Man, because he hates Spider-Man, and he actually gets thrown in, he gets convicted for creating this villain who ends up killing Peter's wife in the continuity. Now now if you haven't been reading it, everything's Zdarsky does a good job of explaining and setting everything up. So the story is about J. Jonah Jameson through the years in prison, reflecting on his hatred of Spider-Man, all this stuff, and how he still basically doesn't get it. And it's really in a lot of ways this story shouldn't work, but it really does. I really have to give Zdarsky, it's just a really damn good story. And I mean, I'm just sitting here going, how are you going to do a whole story about J. Jonah Jameson and then to have him just in jail for 30 years or 40 years or whatever? It's just how is this that amazing? But he pulls it off. It's really good. And I'm not the hugest fan of Mark Bagley, but his artwork really fits this tale really well. And I think a lot of it is, there's some action and stuff like that, but I think it's just all, it's a really character-driven story. And Bagley really, this is honestly, I think, some of his best work I've seen in quite a while. Once again, I don't think he's a bad artist. I think he's a good house artist. That's why he was on Spider-Man so long. He just has a good house style. But he really brought the emotional and really captured the emotion of the story. And I really, really enjoyed it. I was very impressed. So I really think you should check that out this week. Next up, we have Syphon #2. Written by, where are we at? Syphon. Patrick Meanley and Motion Ashraf, with artwork by Jeff Edwards. Sorry about that. So many things I have to go through this week. I really like this. So what it is this this paramedic, he now has the power to siphon. So when people feel sad and stuff, he siphons that off. Well, the villain, at the end of the first issue, the villain who killed the previous girl who had the power, he kind of, talks to this kid and, I'll help you with your powers and stuff. And what you find out that he can also siphon, if somebody's happy, he can siphon that off and then they become unhappy. So it's interesting because, originally, the paramedic, the guy thought, hey, I'll help people, I'll take their bad stuff and make them happy. Well, but the thing is, when he sucks the happiness, like, that kind of thing. He kind of gets drunk with power. It's very interesting how, Ashraf and Meanly have set up this story. I really enjoyed the first issue, and I think the second issue does a really good job of building on that first issue and kind of more explaining, the powers and stuff like that. They're setting up the bad guy. I think they do a lot of good stuff that, that they do a lot of things that are right in this second issue that move the story along, and the pacing's really good, and give you a good reason to come back for the next issue. And I really like Edward's artwork. This is a really good looking book. That was one of the reasons I actually ended up picking up the first issues, because I really enjoyed the artwork, but I wasn't so sure on the story. But it really is, and I'm pleasantly surprised. The second issue does a good job, and I still think it's worth checking out. So look for that one. Next up, we have Superman, Son of Kal-El. Number 2, written by Tom Taylor and artwork by John Timms. Now, I like the first issue quite well, but I really have to say this second issue really brings it. I love this second issue. This second issue was so good because it's Taylor's using a different way to kind of retell, in some respects, Superman, kind of growing up, but you also have this where he grew up, his age, like he's still kind of a kid, but he aged very quickly. So there's that going on. So, he basically, so Clark is telling him that, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while and you're going to need to be Superman. So here's what you kind of need to do. So it's actually really, it's very interesting because obviously Tom Taylor's writing Nightwing. This is very much like Nightwing in the sense of he's actually telling the story about John and not necessarily about Superman. I mean, they are one and the same, but he's really going into, really going into the details of telling, kind of giving John a character. And I think that's, what makes this book so good and why it's very similar to Nightwing is that it's, he's getting down deep and getting the character, because if you can tell the character of John, if you can figure that part out, the Superman stuff's easy. He flies around, he saves people, whatever. That's easy. It's the characterization, and he really does that so well here. And I really like Tim's artwork. He really just, there's a scene with him and Clark on the moon looking at Earth. It's a beautiful scene. It's really, like emotional, and he really brings it. There's the, the action stuff, but once again, it's really the, if you can really bring the artwork when characters are just talking, that's when a book is working, and this one is really working. I really, really like this second issue. I really think you need to check this series out. Next up, we have Dark Blood number 2, written by Latoya Morgan, with artwork by Walt Barna and Moses Hidalgo. Now, I actually really like this first issue. It's set during the 50s when, black people were still, it's just a bad period in America. That's all you need to know. That period. And it's interesting because, the story really, really touches onto that. And I think it's very interesting because, this guy, he kind of has these powers. And so we still don't quite know. I mean, we know he got them during World War II. We don't quite know how he got them, but he doesn't really know he has powers. And I think what really Morgan has done well here is that that will come. We will learn that. We know we will learn that. He's really dealing with him just trying to survive as a black man in America. And I think that part of the story is interesting. So you have like this kind of reality aspect of it, but then you have the superhero, and Morgan blends it really well together, and I really like it. It's a very subtle book, and I actually really like that. And then Barna and Hidalgo really do nice artwork. I mean, mostly it's Barna. Hidalgo does a few pages. And it's just a really interesting book. I'm really liking this. It's just something different. and it's a different take on like a couple of genres, and I think it's worth checking out. I'm really enjoying it. I think the second issue is quite good. Next up, we have Amazing Fantasy #2, written and drawn by Kare Andrews. I really like this first issue. First of all, Andrews' artwork is just stunning. Let's just get that out of the way. It's a freaking gorgeous book. But what it is, it's like I explained in the first issue. Think of like What If, in that respect. This is kind of a what if story. And so you have Captain America, Black Widow, and Spider-Man stuck in this kind of fantasy island, i.e. maybe like the Bermuda Triangle type thing. And they each have their own stories that are going along. So we have Spider-Man, who has discovered, bit of a spoiler alert here, but he finds Uncle Ben. So, that there's that whole thing. Then you have Black Widow. She's her story is that she's in this, I don't know, the king wants to marry her because he needs her as a partner, because he's not like, he's kind of a normal guy. So, we find that out. Then we have, basically Captain America as Kazar, Savage Man. He's riding around on like a lion that flies. And there's that. So you got 3 separate stories going, but each one of them, the way that Andrews really brings, is able to kind of bounce around with these stories. You never feel like you're lost or anything. It's really good stuff, and it's just it's going back to like Darkhawk. I mean, this is what we should be. This is what we need to get out of Marvel. We need to get stuff that's exciting. It's not so much that it's a what if story. It's just that it's damn good. And I think that's the problem that I have with a lot of DC has the same problem. A lot of mainstream books are just, they're like written for kids. This is not written for kids per se. This is just, it's really good. And then on top of that, you have his stunning artwork that is just absolutely just knocks it out of the park. I mean, it's a good read and good art, and you just need to be buying this book. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. Next up, we have Batman Reptilian #3, written by Garth Ennis with artwork by Liam Sharp. Now, we're starting to get to the guts of this. So now, I don't think it's Killer Croc. I really don't think it's Killer Croc. I think it's another Croc, or if it's Killer Croc, something like he's lost it at this point. Literally, the body counts all over the place. If they're not dead, they're like in traction or almost dead. Pretty much everybody has been taken out by this mysterious thing. And this issue, the Joker's pretty much the last man standing, and then at a point he's not standing anymore. So it's really interesting. So Batman's now starting to kind of figure out, it's like him and Alfred are talking, and it's like, this could be Killer Croc, but it may not be, and we don't know about Killer Croc. It's really an interesting story. It's really dark. The story is dark, and then you have Sharp doing gorgeously painted artwork that just really brings out the just darkness and blah. It's just amazing looking. And this is one of those where you just have a great story and a great artist, and they're just coming together, and it's just perfect. It's a book that, it's not, it takes Batman, but it takes him down this dark path, which a lot of people don't like, but I love it. I love the fact that it's just different. It's wild. It's crazy. And it's like a wild runaway train that just like, you just hang on, and you're just hanging on for dear life. Like I said, Ennis is really knocking this story. I love this story. And this issue was just really fantastic. And Sharp he is just a fantastic artist, and this is some of his best work. And really, you should be checking it out. It's really, for me, what the Black Label really can be. Just go for it. Next up, we have Barbaric #3, written by Michael Morse, with artwork by Nathan Gooden. Now, this issue finishes off the first story arc There is going to be more Barbaric. This finishes the first story. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this book. So you have the Conan character. He has an axe. He can't kill good people. He can only kill bad people. And the axe gets drunk on victims' blood. So what it is so you have like the bad guy. He's like bringing, it's the typical, bringing the demon through the portal. Oh, it's our new god, and the barbarian and the witch that he has encountered along the way. Basically have to battle it. It just turns into a giant blood fest. It's just freaking nuts. It's just a fun book, and it's just wild. It's wild. It has a great sense of humor. It's an interesting take on the kind of barbarian sort of take, and it really has been a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed this book. That Morrissey story wise, and I also like the fact that it was just 3 issues. I actually enjoy that. And then they're going to do more next year. That is actually a good thing. Instead of dragging it out or whatever, no, just do it in chunks. And that is actually quite brilliant. This story had a beginning, middle, and end, but it's going to continue. There is a continuation. You'll see at the end of the issue where, the next story is going to go. And then you have, on top of that, you have Gooden's artwork, which is just, I have to admit, for a Vault book, this is like one of their best looking books that they have literally ever put out. They've actually really been putting out a lot of good stuff, and this has really stepped up the game for the company. And I think, we really need to watch for books that come out of Vault, because they really are stepping up their game. And this has been really fantastic. I really enjoy this. You really check it out. And if you missed any of the issues, if they sold out at your local comic shop, there's a hardcover coming that they just announced in this newest preview. So if you missed it, yeah, I'd say get the hardcover. I really had a blast with this book. Next up, we have Nonstop Spider-Man number 4. Written by Joe Kelly, with art pencils by Chris Bachalo. Now, there's a bunch of inkers, so bear with me. So we have Tim Townsend, Wayne Foucher, Al Vey, Livesay, and Jamie Mendoza on inks. So it's obvious, I think, with the amount of inkers, that the book, I think Chris Bachalo has been a little late on this book. I know that the book has been delayed, but I will say, when it does come out, it's so worth it, because the story is actually quite good. I like that it's using Baron Zemo as the villain, because he's kind of an underused villain, not used very often. I like it, and the story's been really good. Kelly has done a really good story, and I think what has been good about it is the story itself is good. The basic plot element, story's good. But he's playing this to Bachalo's artwork, and that's why this book is so fun. Is that Bachalo just it's like, he's on like overdrive doing the artwork. I mean, half most of the book is like sideways, and it works. I don't know, he's just an amazing artist, and he's really just pushing the boundaries of like kind of a normal superhero comic. And that is why I think this book is so much fun, is because Kelly is doing a really fun, well thought out story. It's not, the most brilliant thing you're ever going to read, but it's good. But then you have Bachalo that just like the artwork just oozes with amazement. It's a fun book. So I'm digging it. I can't wait to see where the story ends up, and it's just fun. So I think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Wonder Woman Black and Gold number 3. So it has okay, so the first story is written by Janet Harvey, with artwork by Megan Levins. Then we have Robert Vendetti and Steve Epting doing the artwork. Then we have Paula Sevenberger writing, with Inka Miranda doing the artwork. Then we have Needy Okarfer writing, with Jack T. Cole doing the artwork. And then the final story is written by Amy Garcia, with artwork by Sebastian Fumara. Now, the one thing that that I'm really liking about this book is it's a lot like Superman Red and Blue, in the sense of, more so with Wonder Woman, all these stories have a sense of hope, and gives you that sense of like power, like personal power, strength from within, and I really like that. And once again, I'm a huge fan of like short stories, and this one, just another just win all around. The first story I really enjoyed was basically a Diana and Steve Trevor's story, and it was really just, it's really beautiful, it's really touching. And it's just about how much they love each other, and I really enjoyed that. The next one I actually was really neat for a couple reasons. One, it's a really good story. It's the Vendetti and Epting. So it's basically she's been captured and she's being tortured, but she always keeps saying, what's your name? It's Wonder Woman. But there's one thing that's really interesting beyond that. Steve Epting's artwork is just absolutely stunning. Is that her outfit is literally modeled like the one in the 60s, the one that everybody hated because when they changed it, she had the like white outfit. Now it doesn't have the boots and stuff, but it kind of does. But it's got the golden belt and everything, and it's just, it was a nice visual touch, for like, if you're in the know. If you don't know it, then it's not any big deal. But it was just really really nice. It was actually a really good story. The next one is actually very, very timely. It has to do with global warming, and it, once again, it goes back to, if there was a Superman, why does he not save everybody and save everything? Because we have to do things ourselves, and that's what the story is that one of the gods is actually, bringing the sun closer. World's catching on fire and stuff, and Wonder Woman goes, she tries to fix it. And, once again, he's like, well, you just delayed the inevitable. And it's, it's sad, but, it's true in the sense of, we're the ones destroying the planet, and a superhero can't save us. We have to save it. And I mean, it's a little preachy, but it's preachy in the right way. For me, I thought, it was just really, really just a wonderful story. The next one, the Okafor and Cole story was really interesting because it was about, it had guest starred Vixen, and it was about aliens that want to come and learn about Earth, and it's really a good story, and but really my favorite one was one of the last one. They're all really good. They're all just really good. But the Garcia and Fumara was about a girl that sees Wonder Woman fighting, and she finds her golden lasso. So she starts using the golden lasso to get people to tell the truth. Because she, once again, she didn't, she didn't believe in herself, and that's what that story's about. And it's just so inspiring. And once again, that's, that's what I love about all of these stories, that they're strong, they make you feel good. And it's rare that a comic book can do that. And once again, I applaud all the creators that are doing these. These are just absolutely wonderful. And once again, you can, each issue stands on its own. You just go out and buy this issue, and it's just, they're really wonderful stuff. So I cannot recommend it enough. Next up, we have Batman Superman number 21. Yes, we're at 21. Written by Gene Luen Yang, with pencils by Ivan Reyes, and inking by Danny Mickey. Now, this is the final story or the final chapter, the finale of the story of the IO robot that has basically made copies, and they're kind of stuck in film world. There's been different iterations of Superman, Batman. So this is basically, it's just the finale. It brings the whole story together, and I have to say that Yang has done a really good job here. I mean, once again, I've said it pretty much every issue. I'm not the hugest fan of these team ups. They're hard to do to kind of capture it, but he has really done a good job of just doing a really good story. It will be really interesting to see what he does in the next issue from here, because this was a pretty big story. And so this first story just really got this set, his writing off to a great start. So I'm very excited. And then, of course, you have Riaz's artwork, which is just really gorgeous. It's been a really good story, and Superman and Batman team up stories are pretty hard to do. So I really have to hats off to the whole team that has done this. It's really been enjoyable. So I still think it's really been worth checking out. Next up, we have Wonder Woman 778, written by Michael W. Conrad and Becky Cloonan, with artwork by Travis Moore. And then there's a Young Diana backup written by Jordi Belair, with artwork by Paulina Ganshu. Now, this is chapter 9. Once again, if you have not been reading Wonder Woman, this is chapter 9. Do not start on this issue. You're going to be totally lost. So, it looks like we're coming to the end. And so what it is Wonder Woman is still chasing the villain through time, or, kind of somewhat time, because she has captured Deadman, and he apparently is the key to part of this, story. Of what she needs to do. So Diana and the squirrel, and the guy she got in the Thor universe. I can't think of Asgard. So they've been following her, and so this one, they get really close. The interesting thing, when I actually love this, they actually went to, they've been kind of hopping through multiple Earths. That's the best way to describe it. So they land on the Batmite Mr. McPixelic world, and that was really charming. It's kind of a side thing, and it really is not major in the grand scheme of this whole story, but I love the fact that they went there. They just, she's hopping worlds, so why not go there? And it was just fun, and it was a nice little, tongue-in-cheek thing that was in this issue. But I think we're definitely coming to the end, because there's a big cliffhanger, which I will not spoil, but I think this is going to be really interesting to see how this all wraps up. And it's been a really good run. Conrad and Cloonan have done a really good job. I actually like these long storylines. They're tough sell, but you just don't see a lot of them very often anymore. And bravo to the team in DC for actually going with this thing, because I know it's obviously been it's a hard sell. And Travis Moore is back this issue. All the artists have, he started, and there's been some fill-in artists, but he's back, and I love how he kind of he when he went to like different worlds, he kind of jiggers his style a little bit, and it's a smart move. It gives it like some oomph and stuff. And once again, I like the Young Diana story. I just don't know that it really fits into what's going on with the main story, but I do like it. Belair and Ganshu are doing a great job. Bringing it all to life, and I know that they're going to release that separately, which is a good thing, because a lot of people are definitely missing it, and it's a good young adult story. So I'm still enjoying Wonder Woman. I think if if you haven't been reading it, there will be a trade of this whole thing, and I think you should check it out then if you haven't. That's going to do it. It's been a long show. Sorry, folks. A lot of stuff to get through this week. Once again, I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan, Annie, and Eduardo, are great with customers, great staff and everything. And it's just it's a great store. They have a sister store in Culver City run by Chris and her team. Support your local comic shop. Please get vaccinated. Stay safe. And as always, please be kind to each other. Kindness goes a long way, and we really all need a lot more kindness now. So anyways, that's going to do it for this week. I'm Steven from PopCultureMaven.com, and this has been the weekly comic book reviews. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.